a little double, I guess a double review here. I watched The Flash, which is now on Max, um, and I'll try not to. I'm not going to go like do a plot by plot blow by blow through with the plots, because since DB you watched it, was it the
Opening
opening?
weekend, baby.
Yeah, opening weekend. Yeah, and I'll put a card up with his review so you can go watch that, if you haven't watched it already. But yeah, but my thoughts on it are uh, it's not a bad movie. I don't think. It's I think my opinion on it is very similar to yours. Um, I enjoyed it for the most part. It kept my interest. Um, story is pretty good, even though it's kind of a diluted version of the Flashpoint uh, storyline.
Right, which Flashpoint was always a weird choice for the first movie or the first Flash movie ever.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I hate this. I hate to say it because I know it might come across as like a generic superhero movie, but they probably should have just done like the Flash versus Eobard Thawne.
Right, that would have made more sense. Or, um, yeah, like just to go fantasy football here for a minute.
Mhm.
In Since today is the first day of fantasy football, or at least I should say the first day of real football games, so people with fantasy football teams can participate.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
y- I mean, you didn't have to do his origin story because you'd already more or less established him in Justice League and a little bit in Batman v Superman.
Mhm.
So you could have had a thing where he's settled into his role as a hero in Central City. Is that
Yeah, Central City. Yeah.
Yeah, in Central City, and like had a you like you could have had a opening sequence where he has to deal with Captain Cold, because
Yeah.
that'd be a good. Yeah, that's a good set piece. Big guy with the big freeze gun. That's always been a good counterpoint to a guy who can move super fast, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then go into the whole Eobard Thawne thing.
Yeah. And I think that probably would have probably been a little more palatable as opposed to doing Flashpoint. Although, from what I can probably gather, they were trying to use Flashpoint as like a soft reboot for the franchise, and
Right.
of course, then they brought in James Gunn, and he just threw it all out and starting completely over. Um,
Oh, one last thing. Like 15 years ago, I had this idea. If you did a Flash movie, and nobody has done this as far as I can tell
yeah.
in any comic or movie, but I'm not exhaustively aware of this. Imagine you have the Flash fighting with Reverse Flash,
Yeah.
and they have it. They're like going so fast, they're like running along parallel to each other in the water, and they suddenly hit such a level of speed that time seems to literally stop. But like they've made these big waves, right?
Hmm.
So you suddenly just have them fighting an entirely ordinary speed,
Yeah.
using this water, like using the surface of the water like it's semi-solid land.
Uh,
Like there's your cool Speed Force set piece,
oh yeah. Yeah.
and it would have the benefit that it would actually conceivably be cheaper to shoot because all you have to do is the background.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. But yeah.
Sorry,
So
sorry,
I mean,
sorry. I keep this movie kept making me want something that wasn't this movie. So
yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I agree too that the only way that Ezra Miller's version of Flash is palatable is just have a more annoying version of that same character.
yeah.
Yeah,
Did you feel like he grew through the encounter with himself?
I think so. Yeah, yeah, and of course the whole twist at the end where some spoilers here. Um, the twist at the end where when the Flash goes back in time, the second time he goes back in time to prevent his mom from being murdered, and that guy comes up and knocks him out into the other universe, and of course the twist is that it's the other version of Barry. He just keeps going back in time trying to prevent the ending from happening.
Right.
Yeah. That was somewhat clever, I thought. But yeah, and I think it definitely he definitely gets better as the movie goes along, as opposed to being more. He's not nearly as annoying, and I think part of it too is because seeing this version of himself being as annoying and irritating as possible kind of makes him go, okay, well maybe I need to be a little less irritating and annoying.
Yeah. The other thing this movie did that I thought was interesting is that in an opening scene where he's at the at the cafe,
Right. Yeah.
like for once they actually like made it understandable why he was acting awkward, because he couldn't actually say, "Hey, I kind of need this blood sugar, or my powers will kill me."
Right. Yeah.
So hurry it up.
Yeah.
Come on, sandwich man.
Yeah. He's like, you can't rush perfection.
There's like little hints of a kind of more grounded movie.
Yeah. And I like that I will say the baby part at the beginning was weird because the CGI babies looked strange.
No, they needed like 3 or 4 more passes realistically.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was nice seeing, like, Batfleck and Wonder Woman, for however brief they were in the movie.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, and then of course when he goes back in time and changes everything, and then he goes and he meets Michael Keaton's Batman. That was that whole sequence in the kitchen where he's his hair's long and his beard. Yeah, he's got the beard and he's making the spaghetti and explaining time travel and everything. I thought that. And then he gets the Parmesan and he's like, "Oh, what does the Parmesan represent?" That's just garnish. It's metaphor's over.
Yeah. Michael Keaton was pretty good in this.
Yeah. I wonder how much of the action scenes he did in the movie.
Probably very few of them.
Yeah. Given his age, and it just made me want another Michael Keaton Batman movie or a Batman Beyond movie with him.
That's supposedly what the Batgirl movie was shaping up to be. It was him as Old Man Bruce with her as his younger protege. Like people, like a friend of mine was like, yeah, he was trying to like destroy like what benefit of the doubt I was giving the Gunverse. Like, what Batgirl was going to be? It was going to be Batman Beyond. It's like, but I heard it tested almost as bad as Black Adam, and that was bad.
Yeah.
that generation of fanboy capture, we don't know what the audience wants. We're changing management every 6 months. DC could not make a really good movie.
Yeah, and I think and I think what's kind of obviously disappointing is that this, since the franchise is getting rebooted, this movie isn't going anywhere.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the movie, he gets his dad exonerated, but then there's another change, and the other change is that it's George Clooney, Bruce Wayne, not Ben Affleck or Michael Keaton. Like, what?
And then his tooth randomly falls out to punctuate it. It's like,
the
hell was that?
Yeah. Well, you remember when he was giving the other Barry his power, getting.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I more mean, what the hell was that for?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Why did it just decide right then and there to fall out? Yeah.
Like, was that meant to be like a moment of bathos or something? Or
maybe.
like, honestly, they needed to like do like one last reshoot. Like, Ben, please, just one more time. You don't have to work out. You'll just wear a suit. You'll walk up and congratulate Barry, and then we don't have this weird dangling George Clooney thing. Okay, fine.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it. I mean, it's like I said, it's not the best superhero movie ever. Um,
Hmm.
definitely not. I wouldn't say the best in the DCEU. Um, but I mean, it's far from the worst. I mean, I also agree with you too that this movie is a lot better than Morbius.
Yes.
Although Morbius is very that bench is the benchmark's very low.
Yeah, the only things I can think of that are in the same league as Morbius are like Elektra.
I've never seen Electra, so I can't.
I can't recommend it. It was so boring.
Yeah, and of course I haven't seen the new Fantastic Four movie, the most recent one, the Josh Trank one.
Yeah, I never felt like being tranquilized like that. Playing
Yeah,
on
I
the
mean,
page.
yeah, me either. But yeah, I mean, if you're curious about this movie, I'd say give it a watch. I mean, it'll hold your at the very least it'll hold your interest and keep you engaged, which I think is a good thing for any movie. If
Hmm.
the worst thing a movie can be is boring.
Right.
Yeah, and this movie is not boring.
Yeah, and I'll also say that when I watch this, you kind of come away thinking, man, everyone in this movie deserves better, even Ezra Miller,
Yeah,
because the performances given by everybody were just too good for this movie.
yeah, and especially that the part in the when they're in the Batcave, the two berries are in the Batcave, and he's with the monkey plushie, and he's like, "You're using him as a dartboard," and yeah, and getting really mad at him about the fact that he said, you don't know how good you had it with mom and with mom and dad, and that was a good scene, I thought.
Yeah.
Mm.
I do remember somebody on Minette's Edge going, "Of course, Barry has chemistry with himself. Ezra's a flaming narcissist."
Well,
It's like, yeah, it's not wrong.
yeah, not entirely wrong there. Yeah, but but yeah, give it a watch if you're so inclined.